Preparations to lift the sunken James Whalen tug. Mayoral candidates discuss infrastructure priorities. And local students set to return to the classroom.
Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Riley McManus. The sunken James Whalen tug is nearly ready to be lifted after spending months touching the bottom of the Cam River. Dive teams are on site today for a final inspection as they prepare to float the 117-year-old vessel back to the surface. Kurt Black has the details.
4 months after the historic James Whalen tug slipped below the waters of the Kaministiquia River, the vessel is nearly ready to resurface. On Tuesday, the 300-ton ship will be lifted by a specialized barge with 2 cranes. Once dive crews finish their final checks on Friday afternoon, City Parks Manager Corey Halverson got the news he was looking for.
Today, they had a dive team out to do some final inspections, and they've informed me that they have the rigging all in place, so everything will be ready to go on Tuesday when the barge arrives.
Once the James Whalen has been lifted, high-capacity pumps will be used to clear any water left inside the vessel. It's only then that crews can properly assess the seriousness of the leak that caused the 117-year-old tugboat to sink back on May 1st.
At that time, we'll get an understanding of, how much, is there some sort of major leak going on that will continue. If not, then it's going to be prepared to be transported to Patterson Dock, just up the Cam River, and that's where it will be moored for the temporary location.
As for a more permanent home for the James Whalen, Halverson says the city will look at all possible options, including those that would have the tugboat removed from the water altogether.
We are exploring options where it would be not in a floating condition, somewhere installed along a shoreline where it's in sort of an infill type of location, but we'll be looking into that next stage.
Kurt Black, TBT News.
Thunder Bay's mayoral candidates have outlined their top infrastructure priorities. Lee Noonan caught up with all 5 people vying for the top council seat today and found out that road conditions and urban infill are top of the list.
No big flashy projects were promised when we asked the city's mayoral candidates about their infrastructure priorities. Instead, they mostly focused on maintaining the infrastructure we already have. For entrepreneur Gary Mack, roads are top of the list.
Just went through a terrible spring. Our roads are crumbling. Our city feels neglected. One of the reasons I stepped up to run for mayor is just because our city has been neglected for so long, and we need a leader to step up and, take care of our beautiful city.
Although current city councillor Peng Yu also wants to tackle an indoor turf facility, roads are first on his list as well.
Right now, we pay lots of attention. We spend lots of money on the road. We make sure the road, the pavement can stay longer. How can we do that? We just throw the money, it doesn't work. We have to add on the new ideas and the renovations and also quality control.
Former Mayor Ken Boshkoff wants to ensure all of our infrastructure, particularly roads, can withstand a changing climate.
The previous council has done lots of work on this, as have the staff, but the rapidity of some of the changes now have caught everybody by surprise. So the council as a group has to think, how are we going to be adaptive enough to deal with this?
Clinton Harris says the priority needs to be on urban infill, noting that when the city's population is spread out, it costs more to build and maintain infrastructure.
When you start expanding with regards to green space and taking things further on, which adds more cost to create all the sewers, all of the things that you would have to do to spend money to do that, when we currently have, you can go down probably 3 or 4 main streets in our community where there are vacant buildings and vacant lots that could be used.
LU radio host Robert Shapansky wants to focus on rezoning to increase urban density, seeing affordable housing as a priority.
One, no more vanity projects that the city does that's just a waste of taxpayer money. And the second thing is I want to build more affordable apartments because The city's been going nuts with houses and building out, building out, building out. Instead, we should be building up.
For more info on all 5 mayoral candidates or the 59 candidates for City Council, go to tbayvotes.ca. Lee Noonan, TBT News.
We now know what the future holds for outgoing Fort William First Nation Chief Peter Collins. He's been named as the new CEO of Chichewin-Ojichewin. CMO is the company that's been formed to ensure 8 member First Nations benefit from the proposed 230 kilovolt Wasinigan transmission line project between Shunya and Dryden. When finished, it's expected to bring 350 megawatts of electricity to the region, enough to power 11 average-sized mining operations. Collins helped negotiate the Wasinigan deal with Hydro One on behalf of Fort William First Nation. He announced on Monday that he's stepping down as chief on September 18th. Last-minute preparations are underway as schools get set for students to return to the classroom. There's both excitement and a little concern. This will be the closest thing to a normal start to the school year since the onset of the pandemic. But some are still worried about the recently dropped 5-day COVID isolation period. Vasilios Bellos reports.
The first day of school this year will definitely have a more familiar feel to it, as it'll be the closest to a pre-pandemic experience for students and educators since COVID-19. This includes not having mandatory masking in the classroom, though the government will still provide them for students or teachers that are more comfortable wearing them. The Thunder Bay Catholic District School Board Superintendent of Education, Allison Sargent, says this will make for a better learning experience.
We're very happy that we're going back without masks and that students can see their teachers and their educators' faces. Just the opportunity to build relationships. We're really, really excited about going back this year. I think that, when you're not wearing a mask and you're not hidden behind a piece of material, it just makes the interaction that much more intimate.
One of the big topics on the minds of teachers, students, and parents heading into the new school year is the 5-day COVID isolation rule that was dropped on Wednesday. It's raised concerns for many in the education system, including Lakehead Elementary Teachers President David Paddington.
There are some frustrations with it, to be sure, and we feel that, with the potential of ongoing outbreaks and people still getting sick, that this could cause more absences than less.
And for 2 education worker bargaining unit presidents, Carrie Simpson, who represents the student support professionals at the Lakehead Board, and Dinah Nielsen, representing the Ontario Secondary School Teachers Federation, it's important to recognize not everyone will have the same comfort level heading into the new school year.
The members that we have in the schools all feel differently about it. All we're looking at is the health and safety of the students and the staff, and we follow medical advice.
Time will tell if what effect that will have, and I'm sure it will be of concern to some individuals and maybe not as much of a concern to others.
Students with the Lakehead and Catholic boards return to class on Tuesday. Vasilios Bellos, TBT News.
The union representing full-time support staff at Ontario's 24 colleges, including Confederation College, has agreed to terms on a new 3-year contract with the College Employer Council. OPSU members still have to ratify the agreement, which would replace the previous contract that expired on August 31st. Terms of the deal haven't been released, but will be made public once members have reviewed and ratified the new deal. The 2 sides released a joint statement yesterday acknowledging the contributions that full-time support staff make to Ontario's post-secondary education system, calling the workers an integral part of the college sector. Some municipal leaders here in the Northwest say they don't need the new mayoral powers outlined by the province to get things accomplished in their respective communities. The Ford government recently rolled out the new Strong Mayors legislation for Toronto and Ottawa and has plans to extend that to other municipalities. Adam Riley has the details.
I'm a common sense guy, and it didn't make common sense to me to have the mayor having all that power.
That's the reaction Marathon Mayor Rick Dumas has to Bill 3, aka the Strong Mayors Bill, which was first implemented in both Ottawa and Toronto, but the province plans to roll it out to other communities across Ontario. That move has some of the region's representatives, including Northwestern Ontario Municipal Association President and Shunya Mayor Wendy Landry, unsure of the need for such powers. which would allow mayors to veto some decisions made by council.
I'm not convinced at this point that it is something that we need to move forward with in our NOMA region.
Landry says the topic came up at the AMO meetings earlier this month, with some mayors on the organization's board speaking as to how the bill could have benefited them in the past. She hopes the government will explain how this could benefit small council communities, all the while taking input from those municipalities.
You know, I like to think I'm a strong mayor anyway, so I don't know if that's a great clause to have the strong mayors bill as a title, but it is what it is. And at this point, you know, we just ask the government to consult with us before they move it out to other municipalities. I think there's some time and room for us to have discussions of what that would mean. And what does it mean for democracy? And what does it mean for council?
While much of the bill is geared towards support for housing, something both Dumas and Landry agree is needed in the Northwest, Dumas says mayors and councils need to work together to make decisions that will benefit the community overall. He's also worried that it could become a real nightmare for municipalities by giving mayors what could be seen as near unlimited power, as it also gives them the ability to hire and fire key staff positions.
What does that look like when I'm running a community as Marathon and I say, okay, I'm going to fire my CAO, my treasurer, and my chief building official, which are 3 positions we need to have. I'm going to fire those just because I don't like them individuals. Well, who's going to come to work in my community if the mayor's got that power at any given time? Well, then you're going to have to backload any contract that you're going to sign with any professional person to come and work for you. So now if you do fire them, they have, 2 years worth of compensation.
Adam Riley, TBT News.
A ceremony was held today to commemorate the Canadian Merchant Navy's contributions during World War II. The Canadian Merchant Navy played an important role in the war, taking crucial supplies from our country's east coast across the Atlantic to England for Allied soldiers. The flag raised at City Hall, known as the Red Duster, was used by the United Kingdom for merchant ships and was Canada's national flag until 1965. Chris Christiansen, whose father served in the Merchant Navy, talks about the importance of carrying out this annual tradition.
Just that I'm proud of my father for what he did, and I'm proud of other Merchant Navy veterans or whoever, proud of what they did too. So we must have it in our memory, otherwise we lose everything, right?
More than 1,600 Canadian Merchant Navy seamen were lost in the Second World War. The Thunder Bay Museum has given away a 1979 Firebird Spirit. George Jones of Westport, Ontario, near Ottawa, is the lucky winner. The car has a V8 engine and 3-speed automatic transmission with restored snowflake wheels that shine like new. The winner of the online raffle was contacted by phone this afternoon. Museum Executive Director Scott Bradley says the raffle is an important fundraiser for the facility.
Classic car raffle is really important to the museum. It represents about 10% of our operating revenue for the year. And it goes to support our operations and especially, pay utility bills and for supplies to allow the museum to continue to serve the people of Thunder Bay and Northwest Ontario by, delivering on our mandate to preserve and educate the public on the history of our area.
The Firebird is valued at more than $27,000.